Hey guys, thanks for stopping in to check out this week's video. Today we are talking boat upgrades again. Making that older boat that you got have some of the features of a new one. Today we are going to be installing a blinker trim switch. Okay, this is handy if you've installed a hot foot, or like in my instance, I installed the jack plate and there's no real good place to mount my jack plate switch that I can get to it while I'm actually running down the lake. I have to take either a hand off the throttle and trim, either that or take it off the steering wheel. Neither of those are a real great option. So this way I can keep my hand on the wheel and still adjust my jack plate, which is going to be a big help to me. For the tools that we need for this, it's a little bit more of a complex job, but still relatively simple. Things you're going to need: a socket set. Doesn't need to be a real big one, just a couple of common sizes. Some needle nose pliers or wire pliers. Wire pliers are probably the better option, but I couldn't find mine today, so I'm going to be using some needle nose. Screwdriver, wire connectors, we'll talk about those a little bit later. A drill, some drill bits, and a jaw puller, like either a gear puller. They make steering wheel pullers, but this seems to work for my application, and a small pry bar. Relatively simple tools, guys, that most people have at home. You can install this thing pretty quick. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so the first thing we need to do is get the steering wheel off. This can be probably the trickiest part of the whole deal. Now some of them will attach multiple ways. I'm just going to show you how mine is. I've actually went ahead and loosened everything up just to speed it up for time, because it takes a little while to get it off. You're going to want to plan that in. The older the boat is, and if it's never been off, or if your steering wheel has never been off before, it can be locked on there pretty good. First thing you want to do on mine here, I've got this little cover on here. You're going to want to get something behind it, either a small screwdriver or a pry bar like this, and pop that off. Alright, behind that, on mine I have a nut, a washer, and that's going to be it. So you're going to end up doing, go in there with your ratchet, loosen that up. Like I said, I've already done this ahead of time just for time. It's not rocket science, so you guys can figure that much out. So that comes off. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit complicated for some of you guys. It can be a little bit tough. This is where that jaw puller comes in. On mine I ended up hooking it on both, or the gear puller I mean. Hooked it on both sides here. Got it right in the middle, tightened it down, and mine popped right off. Might take you a little bit. You might need to use some penetrating oil, maybe a little bit of heat depending on what you got. And after that, some of these can just be splined, and some of them have what's called a Woodruff key. So if you come over here and look, this little piece of metal in here, that's what your steering wheel grabs to make sure that your wheel turns. So now that we have the steering wheel off, you're probably going to want to go ahead and remove the bezel if you don't have a hydraulic steering unit. If you have a hydraulic steering unit, your options are this: you either drill a hole in the dash right next to it, or you route your wires underneath. If you just have a no feedback system like this one, or just a regular cable steer, go ahead and take this off. There's 2 screws that hold it in on each side. I've already went and taken them out. As you can see, it's been a while since that's been opened. Probably the first time ever since this boat was made. So there's going to be a lot of junk behind there. Go ahead and clean it out. But you're going to see you have a pass through here, and this is actually where you're going to run your wires for your jack plate. The other place you're going to need to do, or something else you're going to need to do, is drill a hole in the bezel. Now you're going to want to drill it on the side that you're going to install this on. If we go ahead and just put that back on there just as a placeholder, you're going to see that this trim switch, when you put it on there, it lines up with these little indents. Okay, the wires are going to go back behind on this side, so you're probably going to want to drill a hole either above or below this, or you can drill it right through. The other thing, if it works out better for you, you can also rotate this a little bit. You know, it might work better down here on some boats, I don't know. And you don't have to use the indented holes, but for my case, they happen to be pretty much perfectly rigged up, so it looks good, it's in the right spot. So that's what I'm going to go with. Alright guys, so I went ahead, I've drilled my hole here now for my wires to pass through. This is still loose, so I can get behind it to run the wires through. I've also went ahead and removed my current jack plate switch. In my case, this is where things start to get a little bit different, because for me, I don't want this switch anymore. Now, if you're hooking up a trim unit and you still want the control to be on the throttle as well as on the dash, that's where the wire connectors come in. You're going to have to splice wires with the mounting kit or the wiring kit that it came with. Just match up the colors to the colors of your trim wires. You're going to use these little connectors here. If you put one wire in, it goes all the way through. The other one has 2 holes in it, and it splices the wire, so you can splice the wiring harness right into there and route it through the dash. Now in my case, because I don't want this switch anymore, I just want it to be controlled by the one on the dash, I can just pull this off of here and route the wires up through. If you guys are just installing this and you don't have the nice ends on there already, what you're going to need to do is get the straight through wire connectors. Okay, you're going to take the ends, stick it in there, crimp it down after you strip some wire off, and then you're going to do the same thing with the wiring harness. These ends are pre-stripped, so all I have to do is just peel the back off of it, or the end off of it, and you'll have spare wire. Now what I'm going to do is just forego using this completely, because my wires will run all the way up through here. I have plenty of wire, and like I said, I'm completely getting rid of this switch. I just want to replace it with the new one. Alright guys, at this point, it goes without saying that you should disconnect the battery before you do any of the wiring stuff. You don't want any short circuits or anything like that. You also don't want to zap yourself. You're new to wiring. Don't forego that step. Just make sure you go ahead and disconnect it. Alright guys, as you can see, I've got my wires all connected on there like they're supposed to be. I've got them routed through the hole, everything's buttoned up here. The only thing that's left is for me to mount this switch on here. Now this is where you need to go to your hardware kit. So you'll see you have these 2 self-tapping screws. If you look real close at them, you can see the little lines at the end that makes them self-tapping. You have regular screws, you have these short little ones, and you have these long ones. Now depending on what helm you have, if you have a hydraulic one, I believe these are already pre-tapped on those. You just bolt it in. If you have just a regular bezel like I do, but it doesn't have the indent, you use these longer ones and bolt it from behind. You can also screw them in too with just these regular screws. And for this one, since it does have the holes in it, you're going to go to the self-tapping ones. That's what it recommends, so that's what I'm going to try. Alright guys, as you can see, I got everything buttoned up nice and secure. Switch goes up and down like it's supposed to. You might want to reconnect your power and test it right now, but right now I know I got it hooked up right, so I'm just going to go from here. Now all it is just a reassembly process. Starting with the woodruff key goes back in, your steering wheel goes on, the nut or the washer, and then finally the nut. You're going to torque that down, not too tight, but just snug, just to make sure it holds it on there good. And then we're going to test this bad boy out. Alright guys, so I got pretty much everything buttoned back up here again. One thing of importance when you're putting your steering wheel back together, if it's not splined and has a woodruff key like mine did, make sure that goes back in there where it's supposed to. If it doesn't, next time you're out on the lake, your steering wheel might not grip the shaft like it's supposed to, and you can lose control of your boat. It's a big thing, make sure it's in there. I know it's just a little part and seems like a little detail, but it's something you want to be sure of. One thing to mention here, depending on your taste, and your hands and everything, it might be more comfortable to have this closer to the steering wheel or further away. You can actually bend the bracket, just be nice and careful with it, be gentle. For me, I got a little bit bigger hands here, so this is a good distance for me. It puts it right where it's supposed to be, right at my fingertips. It's going to clear everything on the dash, so I'm not worried about that. Now comes the moment of truth, guys. Make sure this thing works like it's supposed to. Looking at the motor back there. Up goes up, down goes down. Successful installation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you like it. If it's your first time stopping in, subscribe. The link to this particular trim switch will be in the description, as well as links to my social media. So if you guys want to follow me on there, that'd be great. Until next time, guys, God bless and good luck on the water.